Downs Construction here, and welcome. Today we're going to show you how we did that transformation that we just showed you from this porch. We're going to do a complete job start to finish, including demo and the rebuild of the new porch structure. We'll have all this completed in just under 5 minutes for you, so stick along and you'll be in for a real good one. First, we're going to start with our demo. We're going to be using a jackhammer, a bar, and we're going to be using actually a couple dueling jackhammers, I should say, to get this slab out, which is over 9-inch thick rebar reinforced. We're then going to be ripping out all these steps. We're going to have to relay them appropriately to get them perfectly to size. They're going to be about 6-inch steps when we're all said and done. The demo is a bit challenging here, as you can see, but once we get it all ripped out, we're left with a bunch of dirt, not much else. First thing we're going to do is we're going to form and pour, and then we're going to get our base to run off of. We left the block that are below grade. We only went down about 18 inches. We poured concrete on top of those existing block that were in good shape. And then now we're running block on top of that. We're going to have one course of block that's going to be filled solid. We have our rebar stubbed up throughout our footing. Our bars are going to be locked into our block. And then we're going to fill every block individually, completely solid before we run a 4-inch block on top. Next, we are going to be porch coating. Now we have a completely new footing for where the steps are. And then we're going to form and pour the steps because they are just a smidge under 6 inches, so it would have been harder to do with block work. So we're going to form and pour, then we're going to strip the forms, then we're going to entirely plaster. You can see everything is perfectly equal. We're going to have a 6-inch rise on every step and a 6-inch rise to the door going in the home. Next, after we plastered, it's time to lay our limestone. Everything that's being set here was being done in mortar and sand mix. It's either a type M mix for mortar or a type S, varying on what we're doing. The block is mainly type M. The stone is mainly a type S. We have a fortifier in. You'll see we're doing a stack stone here. It's a D-stone stack stone in Arctic white. It's all supposed to be perfectly lined up with seams. There's not supposed to be any joints. They interlac. In doing so, it can make it look a bit more artificial. This is a cultured stone, not a natural stone veneer. And like we said, it interlocks perfectly, so there's no gaps, joints, spaces, what have you. They're just dry stack. Here we're putting our rebar. We're doing our vertical and our horizontal bars, making our grid, tying them all together. Then we're putting our steel wire mesh. And then we tape up around the siding, and then we pour our concrete. We're pouring it with pitch away from the home. We poured in some stone for a little bit of a stone base, and then we poured about 9 inches thick back in there. It's completely reinforced, and there's even fiber mesh in the concrete. It is 4,500 pound concrete. Next, we trowel it out, we float it out, we hit it with a bit of a sponge float, then we water it because we want to see things grow. Just kidding, it's a very hot day. You want the concrete to stay moist so it doesn't set too fast and crack. Next, it's time to put in our decorative columns. We're placing all of our columns with new ones, and we're also lining them up so we can tie rails into them. We're going to be running a vinyl rail system in here. We're going to be anchoring the posts down with 4-inch bolts into the limestone. We pre-drill them, all 4 holes. After we get it perfectly lined up, we put it back on, and then we're going to ratchet our bolts in. We don't want to use an impact gun because we don't want to fasten too much and crack the limestone tread. So we do that for both of our posts. Then we slide our sleeves over. After the sleeves, we slide our post covers and our post caps back on, our post base and our post cap, sorry. Then we begin our rail assembly. All these vinyl rail assembly kits are virtually the same. You just have to take your time, space it out. You also have to cut to size, so you got to make sure you have the same spacing after you make your cuts. And it's got to be 3 inches off the concrete, which we have our spacer in there, so it's all to code. Can't be more than 39 inches in height. Fasten it to the house and to the 4x4 posts. Next, it's time for the actual rail one. We set the rail. Next, it's time for the other ones. We put them in and we fly. Once you install one rail system, they all tend to fly. You just got to remember your measurements and your heights, and you run from there. It's very basic. Here you'll see our finished rail look and our finished step look now that we have the water run away. Now it's time to address the aluminum fascia up above. Now that that's all done, we have our completed front porch look for you guys. Thanks for following along.